embarrassingly admit that I spent hours just reading across it rather than doing actual speaker research. So we have Greg Bulmash with us, who's a solutions architect at Amazon USA. As he likes to put it, he worked at Jack in the Box for 2 days before moving on to bigger and better things. And I'm pretty sure he would have fried some amazing tacos, but the world is a much better place thanks to what he's doing right now. Greg is a self-taught developer who has been creating web content for the past 24 years. Currently with Amazon, he has worked with Microsoft, IMDb, Wiley Brooks, creating and delivering content to inform, educate, and inspire developers. He's certified AWS Solutions Architect. Now, the other thing that you really need to know about Greg is, Greg had composed a CV or a resume. How would you call it? A resume? It was a job application which went on to achieve what we would right now call it viral status, right? So if you are interested, you should definitely look up that job application that Greg had created. But over to Greg to speak about developer tools for Alexa. Can we have a loud round of applause for Greg Bulmash, please? Hold on. That was slightly mediocre. We can do a much better job at giving a loud round of applause for Greg.
We'll just sort of gloss over some of the things he covered and go in depth on a couple other things. I'm here to talk about Alexa developer tools, and my job is creating educational experiences around the Alexa developer tools. I joined the team a few months ago. I have worked in developer documentation for Microsoft and for AWS. So let's see here. You can find me on the interwebs on Twitter at Yiddish Ninja. So follow me there if you want announcements about new things that I'm doing or just my random thoughts. And then this is what we'll be talking about today. We'll do a quick overview of the tools, and then if there's some time, we'll do some tool demonstrations. Of course, Jeff already did one of my demos, but I really need to coordinate with him next time. So, I break this up into a couple of different categories. The first category is skill design tools. And Jeff talked to you about NLU evaluation. Now, he uses that for testing later. I suggest actually using it as sort of a test-driven development tool for your interaction model. Because before you actually create anything, you really need to be thinking about the way people are going to talk to your skill. So the best thing to do is to create a number of utterances and then just sort of, start testing. Run your batch. Did it fail? Keep running it until you can make it all pass. Edit your interaction model until you can make it all pass. So the next thing is utterance conflict detection, and Jeff brought that up also. This happens every time you run a build on your interaction model, and it's very good for finding where those conflicts occur. Now, a conflict is not necessarily a bad thing. If you, say, have a built-in intent like cancel, and then you have an utterance called cancel for something else. Joe Moyo, one of our colleagues, has a skill for all the Magic the Gathering cards, which is a strategic card game. And there's one card called cancel. Now, the great thing is that if you have the conflict between an Alexa built-in skill and your custom skill, your custom intent will win. But it's good to know that these things are happening because you might not want your custom intent to win. This is good to watch just so you know where people are going to be going. And Jeff went through Skill Flow Builder. It's just a great way if you're building more narrative experiences to help you keep everything in line and take a lot of the complexity out of it for you. Now, one of the things that I love are the developer productivity tools. How many of you are familiar with the Skill Management API? A few of you. So the Skill Management API allows you to basically do almost all the stuff that you can do in the console, but with API calls. It's a REST API, but we actually created a couple of tools to make it easier to use. So we have a command line interface, which you can find as the Alexa Skill Kit CLI. It's an NPM module. So you can just npm-g it, and then you have the ask CLI available in your command line. Another thing is, it's great, like if you want to pull down your skill code to your local machine, edit it there, and then deploy it back to your servers. The CLI is very good for that, and actually you need to use it if you're going to use automatic distribution, which I'll talk about in a moment. The SDKs are actually new. The SDKs allow you to basically do all the CLI stuff, but to really sort of code it into your own apps. One of the great use cases for the SDKs is you can use the metrics API within the SMAPI. And you can, like let's say you're an agency and you're trying to build dashboards for your client. You don't want your client going into your developer console on developer.amazon.com to look at analytics. You can pull down a lot of your analytics data using the SMAPI SDKs in whatever web app you're building and then generate your dashboards however you want. So that makes it really easy to build it in. That's all. There are SDKs for Node, Java, and Python, same as we have with the Alexa Skills Kit SDKs. You are all familiar with the Alexa Skills Kit SDK, right? You pretty much all use it. The can handle is part of it. Essentially, everything coming from Amazon servers to your skill handler is just a lot of JSON. And the Ask SDKs break up the JSON for you and do a lot of the work for you, so you're not having to manually compose or manually deconstruct the JSON. And then there's another thing. Jeff talked about connections. The great thing is that we released something in December called Direct Connections. And there's two elements to it. One, in the old connections, you would request a type of connection for like printing or reserving a car or reserving a restaurant. And our engine would pick the best one for your skill and direct your customer to that. With Direct Connections, you can specify which skill provider, which connection provider you want to use. But additionally, we've opened up Direct Connections to, on a test basis, a number of our top skill developers so that they can develop all sorts of connections that you can request. So not just cars and printing and restaurants, but a wide variety of things. And you can look in the documentation, you actually do a search of what's available through the CLI. So this is another one that I like. This is the testing, debugging, and monitoring section. All of you have used the Alexa simulator, correct? Okay, so you can use that both in the console, the developer console. You can use it directly in the CLI. There are a number of ways to use it. It's very good for testing. The one thing that catches a lot of new developers when they're using the Alexa simulator, Jeff pointed it out with his R2-D2, right? We have to type the way we speak. So if you're doing like our introductory cakewalk tutorial, if you write November 22nd, 22ND, Alexa is not as easy, can't comprehend it because Alexa's looking for words, not digits. So you actually have to spell out the numbers that when you use the simulator because Alexa is used to hearing them, not seeing them. So we also have Alexa, tell me what you heard. That's a new, it's more of a privacy feature, but it's also good, like if you say something to Alexa and you get a totally unexpected response, you can say, Alexa, tell me what you heard, and you can find out whether or not Alexa heard what you were trying to say. CloudWatch is great. This is great for monitoring your Lambda. There's sort of two levels here. If you're using Alexa hosted, you only get CloudWatch logs because we're restricting the services you get for free. But with CloudWatch logs, you can basically log out any of your debug code to the CloudWatch logs. So if you're having a problem, pop some debug code into your skill handler, run it, pull up your CloudWatch logs, you can see what's going on. If you're using Lambda on your own AWS account, then you can also set up alarms and metrics to help measure various statistics and to raise alarms when something goes wrong or something goes especially right. The intent history is another thing in the build tab of the developer console, and I actually have not been able to use it. I have not been able to use it because you have to have a minimum level of traffic. And my skill, Shakespearean Shade, which some of you very kindly enabled and used, so I can have some stats to show, doesn't get that level of stats, so get that level of usage. And I'm going to talk about some of the insights on that when we get to the analytics. So, and there we have the developer analytics and the metrics API. We have a number of analytics dashboards. We've been actually releasing them on a pretty regular cadence. The most recent ones are like skill response and skill latency. And this is important, like latency, for example. You want to make sure that your skill is responding to Alexa in a reasonable amount of time because, are any of you web developers as well? Some of you, yes. And you know that if your site takes longer than how long to load, people click away? Like 3 seconds? So you want to make sure that your skill handler is responding to Alexa quickly so that your customers are getting their responses quickly. Otherwise, if they're waiting too long, Alexa will either time out or they'll time out. Now we're going to go to some live demos. And thank you to Alon for getting me on the internet so that we actually have some internet to show them to you. So I was going to show you the utterance profiler and NLU evaluation. Jeff already ran through that. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was automatic distribution. And just a moment here. Yes, so I need to go to this page. So when I asked everybody to try out Shakespearean Shade, a number of you said back, hey, why isn't it in the Alexa.in, the Amazon.in skill store? Which gave me an excuse to try out our automatic distribution, which is a new feature we introduced a couple months ago. You change a setting, add a setting to your skill.json, and when you submit your skill, it will be considered for every locale in that language. So I submitted mine for English, and it passed the tests for UK, US, and CA, but apparently I had a policy violation for IN and AU, which I am looking into and finding out why. I will share that in a blog post or Twitter stream, because this is a really cool thing. Instead of having to create a whole lot of content to allow your skill to go to all these different locales for one language, you can just change one thing. Wait. You can change one thing. But let's go into this because I can actually, that was what I was going to do. I was going to show you my skill.json. Now, one of the interesting things is to get your skill.json, you actually have to ask clone your skill on the command line. You don't have access to this file through the developer console. So, when you ask clone, you get access to that, and you just need to add automatic distribution is active true, source locale for languages. So for EN, my source locale is EN US, and then it gets multiplied out. So this is very good to use if you want your skill available in more stores with a very simple change. Okay, let's go back to the tabs. All right, so now we're going to talk about the analytics. I love the analytics. This is fun. And we'll go back here to the developer console. Let's go into so you'll notice that I have both a developer version of Shakespearean Shade and the live version. You're not really going to get analytics on your developer version. And when you go into a live one, instead of going to your build tab, it immediately goes to your analytics tab. Also, you can check your analytics for all your locales. So like if I want to look for English UK, I've had 6 sessions in the previous 7, for the last 7 days. And before that, the previous 7 days had 0, which is fine because I just got into the UK skill store like a few days ago. And we have, for all languages and locales, I've had 19 enablements in the last 7 days, maximum of 2 per hour. One of the things that I find is really interesting is this, actually here, the sessions. The data here that I get and the retention data that I get shows me that people are really only using this once, maybe twice. Nobody has used it more than twice. And, well, actually, I want to get out of, okay. And one of the things that I learned that I'll share with you is that Shakespearean Shade is a novelty skill. A novelty is funny the first time, a little less funny the second time, and then it sort of gets tiring. And if you really want to build skills that are going to generate a lot of traffic and a lot of use, you don't want a skill that people are going to get tired of in 1 or 2 uses. You want to give them reasons to come back. So with Shakespearean Shade, there's no gamification for coming back. There's no reason to come back unless they want to sort of, see what other insults it'll give them. So, that was a mistake I made. I was like, hey, this is clever, this is funny. Clever and funny also need some idea of how you're going to get the user to come back and use it again. So that was something that I learned from this. And here. And if there's time, the Snappy SDK, what's our time here? 5 minutes left. Got it upside down. Upside down. Thank you. All right, so one of the things that I did when I saw the Snappy SDK, I immediately started playing with it. And this morning, I got the final clearance to publish a demo to our Alexa cookbook. So I'll take you over to that briefly. And if you're not familiar with our Alexa cookbook, it's a very useful repository of a number of demos and guides and code snippets that you can use to help familiarize yourself with a number of features of the Alexa skill server and even some Alexa voice service stuff. And so I created this demo of the SMAPI SDK, and we'll run the demo modules. It's pretty simple. Like I said, it's also an NPM module, but you'll include it in your package.json rather than loading it -g like you would the CLI, because you don't need it from the command line, you need it in your app. You will also need to register a login with Amazon security profile, because you'll need to use that with the CLI to get your credentials for the SDK to actually be able to contact the server and get a response so it can authorize it. And the funny thing is my second job at Amazon was evangelizing login with Amazon, so I can answer questions about that too. And so we can look here at our skill code, and it's really pretty simple. You just need to make sure that you pull in, your SDK, and this is just my way of taking care of all my tokens. I keep all the auth information in a side file, just import it as an object so I can pull it out. It also makes it easy so that I'm not hard coding authorizations into my main code. And then, to make a call, you build your client, you run your call, and then I've just got a little bit of nicety here to make it print nicely in the console. So if we were to run this, fingers crossed, live demo, we're going to get our metrics for, we're going to get some metrics for the unique customers, or Shakespearean shade. And over the last week, we had 5, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and then 5. So as I got it out into other skill stores, you notice that it dipped after the initial surge from the publicity saying, hey, for the conference, please try it out. And then just getting into a couple new skill stores, it surged back up a little bit. So the additional distribution does get you more use. So you can download this from our cookbook. That's also on my last slide. There's a lot of great stuff in there. I really suggest you browse it. It's going to be a lot of very interesting for you. And we're trying to add more stuff to it. I'm sort of in charge of it this year, and I'm just leading the charge to get more content in it and make it even more useful. So hopefully you guys will find it more useful. And we will come back to the PowerPoint, and we will go to my final slide. Once again, follow me at Yiddish Ninja on Twitter if you want information about the newest stuff that I'm doing, when I'm posting blogs, when we're doing streams, etc. And then you can check out the Alexa cookbook right there at github.com/Alexa/Alexa-cookbook. And thank you very much.
Can I invite on stage Karthik to give away a small memento of our token of appreciation to Greg?